Hey folks, welcome back to the Cotswold Collectibles YouTube channel. I am Greg Brown, owner of Cotswold Collectibles, and we have Jim back for week number 3 to talk about some projects that he is working on with Cotswold Collectibles, and particularly these two beautiful specimens. If you went to the 2017, I think it was the 2017 Joe Con and the 2018 Joe Con that was in Chattanooga, Daryl DePriest and I think it was Todd Pleasant did a presentation talking about the unproduced concepts of G.I. Joe Adventure Team. They showed a lot of different sketches and such by people like Bob Hudson and Joe Perez of vehicle concepts that didn't quite make it.
These were marker renderings. They were sketches and kind of concept drawings.
Just sketches and stuff like that. These were not computer renderings or anything like that. So basically, if you caught these presentations from Daryl and from Todd, like Jim's talking about, they had these different renderings, hand sketches, and such like that of different vehicles, including the mobile support vehicle,
the early versions of the Adventure Pursuit craft,
the sea sled, and such like that. However, these two particular pieces really caught my eye years ago when I was at the panel. I took a lot of photographs, and then these were graciously shared onto the Vintage 3D Joe. I think it was
Vintage 3D Joe.
Joes.com. I don't know if it's still there or not, but I saved the images. And I went to Jim and I was like, "Hey, check this out. Do you think you could mimic these?" And Jim had discovered, and I'll let you go into detail a little bit about it, that the sketches were just a variation on a theme, but they're just enough. They were just a little bit different from the next one, so we kind of had to get a little bit picky.
Had to choose some from the different designs. There were 5 or 6 iterations of this kind of screw drive or worm drive. I'm not sure. That's loosely based on some Russian Soviet era snowmobiles and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was. I forget what the thing was. I know that the Russians engaged into that design program, and it was almost like, what do you call it, where the ice and the permafrost? It was something very weird like that, or like the marshlands.
So we kind of settled in on these 2 different designs that kind of represent some of these variations. And so we came up with some nicknames for them. I don't know if we're officially going to stick with them or not, but we had to call them something. And so we called this one the Turtle. And then this one was the Camel.
The Camel, because on one of them the sketches said
the Camel. Yeah.
But basically, so we started toying around with these concepts, and then Jim had to kind of utilize, combine the different elements of the thing. And so we debuted these at last year's DFW G.I. Joe Action Figure Show. And we showed them to Daryl because Daryl was going to be reintroducing or redoing that same panel at the show. And so we had gifted him. I want to say it was this piece, the Generation 1. This is like a Generation 3 or 4. And Daryl had presented it to one of the other guys, and I didn't realize that some of those guys were still alive. And so he actually talked to one of the guys. And we were just talking about this earlier. Is it Bob Hudson or was it Joe
Perez?
Yeah. And so we'll let Daryl answer the question down below in the comment section. But basically, the guy was very amused that we actually were able to reproduce in 3D printing, and so we're very fortunate that we're working with
actually working with the original concept artist.
Right.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, and he's giving us the notes of what his thought process was behind it. But we thought that we would go ahead and share with you. Now, let me preface this first and foremost. These are not ready. Jim has been working on this for over a year. I think I came to you almost 2 years ago.
No, almost 2, yeah.
And we got to a certain point, and then, of course, life gets in the way. We're working on different projects. But this is a project that eventually will come to fruition. We're going to be working one-on-one with the designer to get the notes, because sometimes, as Jim mentioned, these designs were sketched and just drawn, so you didn't get to go see a full 360 degrees. It wasn't a 3D printed rendering or something like that. So I'm going to let Jim take the helm and talk about what the different aspects of each different vehicle have, and some of the things that you don't see, but some of the things that you will start seeing as these development. And we hope to maybe in a few months post an update on how these things are developing. But I'll let you take the helm.
I guess we'll start off talking a little bit about the camel. And if you look at the sketches, there were these fuel cells that were an integral part of the design.
Very visible.
Very, very visible. There were these hatches for storage that you could store things in. I believe there was some sort of solar panel that popped up in the back.
There was. We were talking to Bob
about some of the details.
What was the thought process behind that? Yeah.
And there was some kind of a radar antenna that was on the front of it. And there's a spotlight, it seemed like on the side.
There was, yeah.
And so still details to work out. Each of those parts have to be 3D designed. And so work in progress. This one has tracked undercarriage, if you will, with moving tracks. And the idea is the Joe figure will be laying kind of in a prone position. Mm-hmm. And so there's kind of a design challenge that I ran into, is that when you take the sketch, things aren't necessarily scale appropriate. And so when you lay a Joe in here, his head barely goes, he can't look up. You don't realize these subtle things because it looks great in a quick, 30-minute sketch. Right. But when you try to bring that into the 3D world and then into the real world, those dimensions don't work out. So we had to make some modifications so that he can actually look up a little bit. That's one of the challenges with this one. This one's in the same boat. The way the figure is oriented, you really can't see very well driving these things. It's almost like you're looking at a view screen.
Monitor, the monitor's looking kind of forward. Yeah, because I remember when we first started on this one was extremely difficult to fit the head in there. And if you guys looking at these, you're like, well, these look like the sea sled. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't put it past that this is the same designer who worked on the sea sled.
Sure.
Even I think with the sea sled, the way it was designed,
you can't really look up much in it.
It was kind of at the same time design. I guess you would say hurdle to overcome. But yeah, that's the reason why. If you look, and we'll post the images of what these look like too, what we finally came up with. But Jim had to really kind of toy, especially with this. And this one, you pretty well mimicked it, I would say.
Got pretty close. I angled the edges a little bit more. The other one was more bubble-ish. Yeah. And that's just a design printing accommodation is really what that is. Those curves can start to look a little bit funny. And so just having a little more angular edges on it seems to work a little bit better from a production standpoint.
Right.
The turtle here, Greg wanted a couple of additions that weren't really spelled out in the sketches. One has some sort of a motor, perhaps, and so there's a panel here that's got an engine component inside it. Right there. Eventually we'll have it so that we can take it out, sort of a reactor or a motor of some sort. He also wanted a functional storage area on it. So that should just open up there. So some minor modifications on this one. One of the things you may notice is the windshield on this model is clear. It's translucent on this one. I wouldn't say it's clear. It's translucent on this one. And that's because this one is actually vacuum-formed. This one is 3D printed. And so we're still refining the process of trying to get the clearest windshields as we can. That's one of the design challenges that we're working against. We also modified from the original sketch, I guess we would call this in Star Trek lore a nacelle.
Chosen.
Okay. And it had these torpedo front ends, so we decided to mirror that torpedo on the back.
On the other side.
So those are some minor variations that we made to this model here. So
yeah, because I remember when we initially had this one, and this one was just basically
just kind of stopped.
Took kind of a stop. But from an engineering standpoint, it would make sense that if they're throwing this in reverse, you're going to need this.
You need to glide back over the muck.
Whatever you're doing. And I'm assuming that this would be operating much like a tank operates, where one would be going forward, the other backward, whatever it is, kind of like that. And in fact, Jim has caught that one.
Yeah.
That handle concept, which is really interesting. We'll post the images that show the various designs. They're all in the same family. They're kind of a variation on the theme, because I remember when we initially talked about this, in the very beginning, we talked about it having where this module was
Movable.
and then that this nacelle would be attached to this, and you wouldn't have it. But that's to me, this reminds me a lot of when I was a kid growing up in the 1970s. I saw a lot of like Matchbox, not necessarily Matchbox. What I noticed with a lot of these is that a lot of these Hot Wheels had the same type of engineering feel towards them, how this one was and how this one was, and just the simple fact that that they were both the Hasbro guys were going for a prone position. Again, they were utilizing these circular holes.
Those lightning cut.
Right. That we got to know quite well with the Adventure Seacraft and other vehicles and other projects that we're working on. The thing that we're pretty proud of about these is that the technology has advanced so much, and we've talked about this in previous videos. The technology has advanced so much that I'll give you all the credit. I just say, Jim, can you do it? Yes, I can. He's Jim the Builder. But basically that we could do that. And when we were talking to the designer at Hasbro, the former designer at Hasbro, he was marveling about how quickly we could do it. And the same thing with Daryl. Daryl was just like, hey, it's amazing, that we can do this type of changes. Whereas, in the 1970s, you would have probably had to do a clay.
Oh my gosh, it would have been scratch built from sheet styrene, metal tubes or whatever, and it would have taken a model maker weeks to produce a single variation. And
you just have to change it. Sid Mead. That's what I was thinking.
Sid Mead. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Sid Mead back to it. So I remembered it. But anyway, make sure that you keep liking and subscribing to our channel, and to keep up to date, especially on this one. These are, these are like the generation 5 and 6 now,
at least,
of how these have gone, and they've been changing subtly. The closer we get to the finalization of the project, we'll make sure that we post here, as well as social media, and Facebook, Instagram, and such like that. And just an FYI, we just want to let you guys know. Don't just start saying, "Hey, when's the stuff coming in?" This is more of a passion project, I would say, between Jim and I, and working with Daryl and working with the designer. And the game plan is to get these done as quick, as close as possible to the project, and get the packaging to have that vintage feel.
We have to have some packaging to go on.
Right, and we hope to have the instruction book and stuff like that. We really want it to be a true homage to the adventure team.
Yep.
It'll be extremely limited in production, and so it is basically where we're going to put them out there, and just I wouldn't dilly-dally in getting one.
No, I wouldn't.
But please don't be calling Vanessa going, "Hey, where's this at?" We're probably, I would say, probably a year out.
Hopefully we'll get it done before a year is out, but it's 6 months at least.
Jim would like this project.
Yeah, this is laboring on.
But it's come a long way, and we wouldn't have been able to do this without 3D printing. But
well, I just wanted to say thank you, Greg, for having me on for the past couple of weeks. Go over some of the stuff that we've been working on collaboratively together. It's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you spending some time with us talking about that.
I'm just mad that there's somebody more handsome than I am doing these videos. Just stay tuned to the updates, and until then, keep collecting.